All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us here today in Claysville. And I want you to know that over the past several weeks, my administration has taken a number of important and meaningful steps to further Pennsylvania's role as a national energy leader and to protect public health and safety. Just about a week or so ago here in Washington County, we capped our 100th well. We've invested in cutting-edge zero-emission microreactor technologies in Allegheny County. And importantly, we secured funding for not one, but two regional hydrogen hubs here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, one on the eastern side of our state and one on the western side of our state, together with our neighbors in West Virginia. I've said this many times, but I think it bears repeating. I'm an all-of-the-above energy governor, and I'm proud of Pennsylvania's rich history on energy production. You'll hear from Davitt in a moment from the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. When we were together in Washington County a couple of weeks ago, he commented, and I think he's right, about the coal mines and the oil and gas fields of western Pennsylvania that helped fuel our industrial revolution, created good jobs, and lifted people out of poverty. It expanded the middle class, and it led to the creation of the modern-day American labor movement. And we're pleased today to be joined by Darren Kelly of the Allegheny Fayette Labor Council you'll hear from later. Look, when fascism threatened freedom overseas, it was this region here in western Pennsylvania that produced the energy that made the arsenal of democracy the most powerful manufacturing base in the world. Today, Pennsylvania is the second largest producer of natural gas in the nation. And I know that the energy sector will continue to play a key role in growing our economy here in Pennsylvania. But at the same time we invest in energy, we need to protect Pennsylvania's public health and public safety. And that's why we're here today in Claysville at a well pad owned and operated by CNX Resources. CNX is, of course, a major producer of natural gas in Pennsylvania. They currently operate about 650 wells in Pennsylvania, and they employ just under 500 people here in the Commonwealth. They're based in Canonsburg, right here in Washington County, and their employees live and work here. They hunt here. They fish here. And you know what? They're raising their families here. I know these folks behind me care a lot about the community that they live in, and the historic collaboration that we're announcing today is proof of that. In just a few moments, CNX President and CEO Nick DeIuliis and I will sign a statement of mutual interest, affirming our shared commitment to responsible natural gas production, guided by science and data in what Nick calls radical transparency, and built on the unprecedented level of monitoring and public disclosures. We are showing today what it looks like to come together and actually get something done. For me, I want you to know where this work began. It primarily began with the 43rd statewide investigating grand jury, a grand jury investigation into natural gas industry that I led as Attorney General, which I was proud to serve as prior to being elected your governor last year. As the grand jurors knew well 3 years ago, Pennsylvania, of course, has experienced massive oil and gas boom over the last few decades, and many Pennsylvanians had real questions about the public health and safety risks that fracking presents. The public deserves answers, and the public deserves accountability. In the course of our investigation, the grand jury found evidence that the manner in which some other natural gas companies were operating endangered public health and safety. As you recall, criminal charges were filed, and those companies pled. The grand jurors also issued recommendations on how we could protect public health and safety in Pennsylvania. Those grand jurors, they did incredible work. They're you and me. They're Pennsylvanians. And they heard gut-wrenching testimony from many Pennsylvanians, folks who dealt with contaminated water and air pollution and suffered severe health consequences that they believed were a result of fracking happening near their homes. Take the chemicals used in natural gas development for just one example. That full list of chemicals isn't posted publicly, so it makes sense that some Pennsylvanians, of course, would have questions. I think we need transparency on those chemicals, so moms and families and physicians, that they know exactly what's being used in their communities. They deserve that. But that was just one of the recommendations that the grand jurors put forth. The grand jurors also laid out a roadmap for lawmakers to follow. 8 specific recommendations to hold the industry accountable and better protect the good people of Pennsylvanians. Changes so that chemicals would be handled and stored properly, to stop that revolving door of regulatory officials going to work in the industry, to find an appropriate distance between wells and homes and schools and hospitals. That report really reinforced what we knew to be true. Number one, that the public has real questions that require data-driven answers. And number two, Pennsylvanians want us to do everything we can to help keep them and their families safe. Now, I believe to do that, we need to bring transparency to this process, collect more data, so we can ensure that we have the necessary and appropriate protections in place. We must do that in a way that protects the public and recognizes the important role that the energy industry plays in places like here in Washington County. And importantly, we must reject the false choice between protecting jobs and protecting our planet and public health. I believe we can do both here in Pennsylvania. We've shown that energy production and environmental protection, they can coexist here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, it's been about 3 years since that grand jury report was released. I've repeatedly called on lawmakers in the General Assembly to take action on the grand jurors' common sense recommendations. Look, while we might not all agree on every recommendation in the proposed reforms, it's been 3.5 years and nothing has changed in the General Assembly. Heck, they haven't even taken a vote. I'm tired of waiting, and I know the Pennsylvanians are tired of waiting as well. So when I was elected governor, I went to work to build on the important work of the grand jurors. Over the past several months, my administration has engaged in a series of discussions with CNX and its CEO and president, Nick DeIuliis. Nick came to the table and made clear to me that he wants CNX to be a leader on transparency and on safety. We engaged in a really thoughtful and constructive dialogue over many months. And today, I'm proud to be here in Washington County to announce an historic collaboration between the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and CNX. As part of this announcement, CNX has agreed to voluntarily abide by many of the recommendations in the grand jury report and to take a series of steps that go even further than what the grand jurors contemplated at the time. As just one example, CNX has committed to publicly disclose all chemicals used in drilling and fracking before they're used on the site. Now, folks like them who live around here will all have the facts and the information about what's happening in their community. When a healthcare professional asks what chemicals are being used, now they're going to have the answers from CNX. That's what this kind of collaboration provides. At their own expense, CNX will provide open-sourced, real-time emissions facts and data so the local community and industry workers and local and county governments can see the impacts of these wells for themselves. And, well, this isn't just one or two wells that we're talking about. CNX has pledged to expand this monitoring and data reporting across its Pennsylvania footprint as it grows, like the pad that we're all standing at today. This is really an unprecedented level of transparency. CNX will also refrain from hiring DEP employees from regional offices covering their operational areas for 2 years after those employees leave the department. And CNX will voluntarily expand their no-drill zones for new wells to 600 feet for all sites and 2,500 feet for sensitive sites like schools and hospitals, while we collect and analyze the data to determine if any additional setbacks are necessary. But let me be very clear on something. We will be guided by the data in the future in the decision-making that goes on. It's important to note that the grand jurors, when they set those recommendations for setbacks, they knew there was still an active public debate that was going on in terms of what the proper number of feet was to recommend. They believed wells, and this is common sense, should be away from kids' homes and schools, but the data just didn't exist to tell us for sure exactly how far away those wells should be. This is another question that we want to work together to answer. CNX has agreed to set new wells back further from homes and schools and hospitals while going even further as part of their collaboration with the Commonwealth. They agreed to give DEP unprecedented access to 2 of their future wells so we can conduct the most intensive, independent study of unconventional natural gas wells in the country. This is really historic. We will be installing a rigorous network of sensors to do long-term emissions data collection. We'll monitor the air quality impact of those wells before, during, and after development. And we will follow the data to determine what kind of health and environmental policies are needed, including what kind of setbacks are actually needed. We'll gather scientific, fact-based evidence to make informed decisions that truly protect public health and public safety in the years ahead. Look, CNX, it should be lost on no one, is the first company in Pennsylvania to step up and make these voluntary commitments. But I do hope they will not be the last. You can be profit-minded, and you can meet your obligations to your shareholders and employees and also protect public health and public safety. CNX is proof of that. This is a model, I believe, for other companies in Pennsylvania, and I invite them all to join CNX in this commitment. At the same time, I'm renewing my call to lawmakers to act. We need lawmakers from both parties to come together and get something done in this space. As we wait on them, my administration will build on this announcement and start advancing 3 of the grand jury's recommendations through DEP's existing legal authority. I've authorized DEP to begin the necessary rulemaking and make policy changes to add new requirements for the disclosure of chemicals, improve the control for methane emissions, and protect against corrosion in gathering lines. But many of those other recommendations can't be implemented through a regulatory process or a policy change. For those, lawmakers must act. Through this collaboration, we'll be able to provide lawmakers with data and common set of facts that all sides can hopefully agree on. And hopefully, Nick and I are modeling the kind of behavior that we need more of in the General Assembly, where both sides come together, they talk, they actually listen to one another, and they find common ground that helps our fellow Pennsylvanians. Look, I hope it is not lost on anyone. This is the last thing I want to say. That the Democratic governor is standing here on a well pad in Washington County with the CEO of a major natural gas company. I'm not sure anybody had this on their bingo card a few months ago. And a CEO who, by the way, as he makes clear in his book, he and I have plenty of political disagreements. We did yesterday, we probably do today, and we will tomorrow. But it's important to note that we are here together. I hope it's also not lost on you that the head of the Boilermakers and the head of one of the most important environmental organizations in this country, the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, they're here too. They're standing together. They're collaborating as well. You see, we all came together to find some common ground and some common purpose. We're putting forth a model of how natural gas in Pennsylvania can be extracted and processed in the most responsible, sustainable way anywhere in the nation. We're proving yet again that here in Pennsylvania, we can break down barriers and we can get big things done again. And we can stand together for the people that matter most, the good people of Pennsylvania. Look, there are far too many people demagoguing in our politics today. They make noise and they demand purity rather than actually focused on getting things done. We're showing a different approach here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, holding firm to our beliefs for sure, but proving that we can actually work together to get things done. And I hope this is yet another example of how we can do big things in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for having faith in this process, faith in leaders in a whole bunch of different sectors from government to the private sector. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Nick DeIuliis, the President and CEO of CNX Resources. Nick.
Thank you, Governor. Don't listen to the governor on one point. He and I actually have a lot more in common on our political views than you might think, and sometimes that's a challenge for both of us. But I do want to thank everybody for coming. Why are we here in Washington County, as the governor said, and on the border of Greene County, on an active production pad, I might add? Well, let's talk a second about who CNX Resources is. I think that helps frame it up quite well as to why we're here today. We've been in this region now, we're 1 year shy of 160 years, which is hard to believe. Oldest public company that you'll find in Western Pennsylvania. A guy by the name of Lincoln was in the White House when we first got our start. And there's two things to know about us over that time, that 160-year legacy, that really does frame up what today is all about. First, we're the community is us. You simply can't separate the natural gas industry and the community in Pennsylvania. You heard that from the governor in his comments. And it's effectively the same DNA when you break this down. And at CNX, we have an intense commitment and love for this region. And I mean intense. That's a carefully chosen word. I mentioned the 160-year legacy, but our team lives in these communities. Our kids breathe this air. Our parents drink the water. Our homes are here, and God willing, the majority of us intend to stay here for the duration. So when there's a way that we see to advance the ball when it comes to the natural gas industry, to Pennsylvania, to the quality of life of citizens in the Commonwealth, be certain that we will dive headfirst into that opportunity. Second thing to know about CNX Resources that frames up today. We've got a proud legacy of pioneering the next thing and innovating to a better place. And I mean proud. So we did that back in the day with pioneering the capture of coal bed methane, which continues to this day. We did it in the arena of safety through the years by reaching new milestones and step changes in performance and improvement. And we did it, of course, as part of the shale revolution with the Marcellus not that long ago. And by the way, that innovation, that's continuing today. We're doing that with pioneering the Utica Horizon in Pennsylvania below the Marcellus, and with a host of new technologies that just fundamentally change not just this awesome Commonwealth, but also, frankly, the world. Just watch, it will. And there's a window to hit the next level of innovation. When we see that window, again, be assured that CNX will be first in line, just like, as the governor said, Pennsylvania was first in line through the proud legacy and history of the Commonwealth. Again, it's that common DNA that you just can't separate. And we see another opportunity to innovate and advance the industry and our communities tied to this awesome endeavor that is natural gas manufacturing. And it's what we call radical transparency, which you just heard about. You take the idea and sort of the process of radical transparency, you couple it with the leadership of Governor Shapiro, you get the opportunity that's facing us today. But what is, radical transparency? What does it mean? It means that we're going to monitor air, water, waste, and methane in and around our operations, that we're going to open source the data for all to see in real time, and the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, will also share custody of this data to provide further transparency and confidence to the public with respect to the reliability of the data. You think this through, and we thought it through, I don't know how we could not be part of this. In place of endless speculation and all that dueling rhetoric, we're changing the paradigm together by open sourcing facts and data to all the stakeholders that are out there and creating mutual trust, which can serve as the basis for cooperation and real environmental and economic progress throughout the Commonwealth. Now, this unprecedented level of transparency, it's good, okay? It's good for residents' health, it's good for the industry worker, it's good for economic development, it's good for energy security, good for the environment, and good for community investment. As I said, it's good. But the ultimate success, that's going to be set by seeing radical transparency becoming the norm and the standard. So we want to encourage and lobby our peers in the industry to join us and to help us improve what we're about to embark upon. And we're asking regulators and policymakers to now follow the data of the known, because we don't have to follow the speculation and innuendo that derive from not knowing or the unknown when we set policy and standards. And I sense, and I think you sense, how the governor and also the DEP are excited about being able to do that now. So this is historic. We're doing something unprecedented. Currently, we're doing this with the lowest life cycle carbon intensive energy source in the world, which is Pennsylvania and Appalachian natural gas. So the best just got better with this process. And with the governor's leadership, Pennsylvania is on the cusp of setting the new norm for the Appalachian region, for the nation, and for the world when it comes to responsible energy development. We're making history. It's exciting, but it's also sobering, and we're committed to making this a success for all. Two final thoughts, if I might. First, when you are the tip of the spear, it comes with both an opportunity as well as a responsibility. We're going to learn a lot with radical transparency, and when we see something unexpected or atypical, we're prepared and committed to acting in a way where we engineer and design our way to even better performance. Radical transparency and the data it provides inevitably make the process of natural gas manufacturing better, and it is definitely going to be a catalyst for continuous improvement. Second final thought, imperative for us at CNX to be able to use radical transparency to make the recent rhetoric, speculation, and these sensational headlines, to basically make them obsolete, to definitively confirm for all stakeholders that there are no adverse human health issues related to responsible natural gas development, and to confirm what we already know, that the natural gas industry is essential, it's responsible, and it's inherently good for society. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming. I also especially want to thank, once again, the Governor, Governor Shapiro, for your commitment to our communities, for your commitment to facts and data, and obviously for your support, which is incredibly important as we continue to work to ensure that the vast benefits of the natural gas industry, they remain local and they continue to build up our communities from within. Now I get to do something really neat. I get to introduce a really good friend of mine and colleague through the years. We've had many battles and got a lot of things done together, but I'm going to introduce now David Woodwell, who heads up the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. David?
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Governor, both of you, congratulations on this. Nick's reference to the battles goes back to about starting 2011, an enterprise known as the Center for Responsible Shale Development, which brought together 4 major producers, PEC plus several national NGOs on the environmental side, some phenomenal independent directors, and we got shot at. People were like, what are you doing talking to the industry? What are you doing with all this? And we talked about issues like disclosure. We talked about setbacks. We talked about all those things. And in fact, on a number of cases, pushed regulation further because it was the voluntary leadership of those leading companies to go beyond regulation, to really take that social license to operate and grab it and say, we matter and we're doing this right and we're going to do it even better. And I think that's what you two have achieved here, is a number of those things that were started off a long time ago, and there's this continuous improvement to the environment, this continuous improvement to operations and practices, leading with safety and getting to environment that really matters as a culture, not just to the companies, but also to the NGOs, also to DEP, the safety folks and everybody else. And it's really wonderful to see this, and echoing also what the governor said, that a lot of this could also be dealt with another way if the General Assembly stepped up. This is my advocacy part right now, and took some of these things by the horn. I didn't agree with everything in the AG's report, but there's a lot of good stuff in there that really should be taken on, and I think we'll be seeing some pieces around methane and other coming forward. But again, just a phenomenal piece that they're going to be signing. And to build on what the governor said about legacies, this is a region with phenomenal legacies. We've got the negative ones in some cases in the past. If you see bony piles, if you see abandoned wells, that are being addressed thanks to the governor's work, thanks to federal funding. We've also got that ability to leave the legacies for the future and think differently about how we do extractive practices, how we move forward and take care of our messes now, so we're not leaving them for the next round to deal with. But again, to both of you, thank you so much for doing this, and it is my pleasure to introduce Sean Steffi.
Well, good morning to everybody. It's an honor to stand here today and speak on behalf of the Boilermakers and the building trades unions in southwestern Pennsylvania. And I want to thank Governor Shapiro and thank Nick for this opportunity. And I'm also here today to recognize and applaud CNX and the natural gas industry for the environmental transparency that is taken regarding emissions and the environment. The building trades unions in Pennsylvania support and stand behind the natural gas industry 100%. Our unions have built and maintained natural gas infrastructure throughout Pennsylvania, and these jobs have provided great family-sustaining wages and benefits for the building trades unions. I proudly supported the industries that are supplying America's energy needs and the natural gas has transformed southwestern Pennsylvania into an energy powerhouse. And our work is second to nobody. Our workforce is second to nobody right here in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I truly mean that. The building trades is ready right now to build the cutting edge technology of tomorrow, such as hydrogen, carbon capture, and all the facets of the ARCH2 hydrogen hub. And we're proving that we can responsibly produce energy better in Pennsylvania than anywhere else in the world. But I got to bring up a point here, and over the past year, I've got to know Governor Shapiro pretty good, and he will not deny this, that I know he's an absolutely competitive guy. And me too, I'm a competitive guy, and losing's not in my vocabulary. So when reading up on the ARCH2 hub, and I like Senator Manchin in West Virginia, but, you know, one of his quotes is, West Virginia will be on the leading edge of building out the new hydrogen market, which will supplement our rich fossil fuel industry. In Morgantown, Secretary Granholm was here to celebrate West Virginia to continue its legacy as America's energy powerhouse. Well, I'd like to set the record straight because, as Governor Shapiro mentioned, Pennsylvania is the largest supplier of natural gas in the Northeast, and as he mentioned, we're the second largest producer of natural gas in the country, only behind Texas. And West Virginia was a distant fourth. Okay? The U.S. is the #1 in the world in natural gas production, and Pennsylvania played a large role in this. #2 is Russia, #3 is Iran, and #4 is China. These counties are dictatorships, terrorists, and they're untrustable. That's why it's important that we produce natural gas in Pennsylvania, and we have the ability to do it. In 2022, the United States consumed 888 billion cubic meters of natural gas for home heating, electricity generation, and PA is the leader in electricity generation. So my words is Pennsylvania is the energy powerhouse, and it's time to embrace it and not apologize for it and move forward with a new cutting edge technology so we can do this environmentally friendly. The natural gas industry in Pennsylvania employs thousands of Pennsylvanians, not to mention the ripple effect jobs. The industry produces billions of dollars in tax revenue and sustains a lot of local economies just like this one here in Washington County. And we will be key to cutting emissions using our natural gas. It has to be the tool to cut emissions moving forward. Whether anybody likes it or not, renewables are not there yet. The hydrogen hub's a ways out. And we've got to maintain and utilize what we currently have right now so everybody can wake up and their heat comes on, their electricity comes on. It's just a reality, and we have to embrace it. Last, I would like to say, and the other gentleman here and the governor and Nick, we've all said nobody cares more about the environment and what's going into the air we breathe and the water we drink than the people that live right here in Pennsylvania. And that includes the men and women who work in the industry. We just don't live here. We also work here, and we also raise our families here, our grandchildren, and our kids. We all care what goes into the air. We all care what goes into the water, and we want that to be safe for everybody, or we wouldn't be living here. So let's keep Pennsylvania energy open for business, keeping our skilled workforce on the job in PA, and letting our men and women pack a lunch bucket to go to work and not a suitcase to go to West Virginia or other states that are building energy infrastructure. Let's continue to maintain our energy infrastructure and build on what happened here today. And moving forward, it looks exciting. It looks exciting for us as the building trades, and we want to support everything that's happened here today moving forward. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to bring Governor Shapiro back up.
Good job, man. Good job. Sean's right. I am competitive as hell, and the other thing I want to announce today is the next backyard brawl, I'll be the starting quarterback. That's my O-lineman right there, and we're going to kick West Virginia's butt in the next one, all right? With that, Nick and I and any of the other speakers are happy to take some questions from the media. Okay.
Governor, have you decided, and what your decision on the Commonwealth Court decision yesterday about Reggie, what you're planning on doing?
We're reviewing the opinion, and we'll make a decision within the next few weeks here and certainly let you know. Yes.
I have a two-part question. In September, as you know, Pitt released the findings of their 3-year, $3 million study into childhood cancers in the area. I'd love to know your thoughts on the study. But more so, I wanted to say that after it was released, I had two groups of people reach out to me questioning the methodology. Oil and gas workers saying, you know, we have the strictest regulations. We are proud of our work. We wish they would have taken samples, water samples, soil samples. We want to show the world, you know, what we're doing here. And then the families as well, looking for answers. They also felt that the methodology was off. It was done in a Oakland room where they were crunching numbers. Right. You know, my question for you is, do you feel like that was an effective use of taxpayer dollars?
I feel like this is an effective approach. Look, and Nick, you should speak for yourself on this, but in many ways, we're all saying the same thing up here. Every one of the people you've heard from, that the public demands answers, that those answers need to be guided not by rhetoric, but by data and open source information for all to see and study, and that we need to make sure that the decisions that are ultimately made on how to both protect the jobs and protect the public, and again, you've heard me say this, I don't think that's mutually exclusive. It should be driven by the data. And so what we're doing here is really extraordinary through machines like this and others. We're going to gather that data in real time. We're going to process it. The public will be aware of it, and we're going to be able to make thoughtful decisions going forward. And I think if the other companies heed Nick's call and my call to join in this as well, that's going to just expand the amount of data that we have available to helping make sure that jobs are created and families and communities are protected. I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think we can do both, and I think this kind of data we collect is going to be key to that. Anything else from the media? Okay. Thank you all very much.
One quick question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. Are there going to be any enforcement policies in place? You get up all of this data, you find out things, and you find things that may have gone wrong. Yeah. Are there going to be corrective actions taken? Will there be penalties?
Absolutely. Let me answer part of it, and I think Nick should jump in on his part. This is a voluntary agreement, and we're grateful that CNX is the first and hopefully not the last company to adopt these really high standards. And we're going to collect the data, we're going to follow it, and corrections will be made if there are reasons to make corrections. I think Nick should speak to that more specifically about what CNX will do, but this will give us something we don't have right now, which is real-time data. It's going to allow us to make decisions both in the immediate term and over the long term.
Thanks, Governor. It's a great question. Going back to the continuous improvement aspect of this, we're very confident going in. This is an opportunity, that's the opportunity side, but we're also very, it's sobering going into this because we know inevitably when we go to a real-time, data-driven type of an approach, we're going to learn things that we didn't know going in. That's sort of the whole point. And we're set and situated and structured in a way to react quickly to those, to basically engineer things to a better place. So if you look at the cumulative impact of what we think radical transparency will do over the course of a year or a number of years, and it's our intention to continue this on as our standard operating procedure, we should cumulatively be in a significantly better place with respect to what the data told us, how we reacted to that, and that becomes the standard moving forward. And that's always been our experience in similar types of efforts throughout our history. I suspect that's going to be the case for this as well.
Good.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
You didn't go sign.
What's that?
You're going to go sign over here.
Squeeze it a little bit here. Perfect. This is all you. Good. All right. Manuel, why don't you just let us know when everybody's positioned, okay? Are you guys good?
Yep, I think we're good.
Ready, Nick?
I'm ready.
All right.
It's official.
There we go.
Do we clap?
Someone should.
Good job.
Good stuff.